If you talk all the time, you'll never truly hear what anyone else has to say. When your own voice constantly fills the space, the only thing left to think about is what you've already been saying. The same principle applies to the mind. Most people spend their lives trapped inside an endless stream of thoughts, memories, plans, judgments, symbols, images, and words. From the moment they wake until the moment they fall asleep, the conversation inside their head never stops. But if your mind is always talking, what exactly is it talking about? More often than not, it's simply talking about itself. Thought keeps generating more thought. Worry creates more worry. Memories lead to comparisons. Comparisons create expectations. Expectations become disappointments. The mind feeds upon its own activity until we mistake the activity for reality itself. Just as you must become quiet to truly listen to another person, you must allow the mind to become quiet if you wish to experience life directly. The moment thought relaxes, even for a brief instant, you come into immediate contact with something that cannot be described by language. It is not something mysterious because it has always been here. It is simply beyond words. Language points toward it, but language can never contain it. People often call it the physical world, the present moment, reality, consciousness, or existence itself. Yet every one of those names is still only a concept. The experience itself exists before any label is placed upon it. The moment we name something, we divide it from everything else. We create categories where none originally existed. When you become aware, without constantly translating experience into language, something extraordinary begins to happen. The boundaries that once seemed so obvious begin to soften. The sharp distinction between self and other, between success and failure, between pleasure and pain, between life and death, starts to reveal itself as something constructed by thought. The concepts remain useful for everyday living, but they are no longer absolute truths. An old Zen master was once asked, "What is Zen?" He simply replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student laughed and said, "Isn't that what everyone does?" The master answered, "No. When people are hungry, they think about countless other things while eating. When they are tired, they continue living inside dreams even before they fall asleep." Very few people simply eat when they eat or sleep when they sleep. How often are we physically present in one place while mentally wandering somewhere else? We sit with our families while thinking about work. We work while imagining vacation. We finally reach vacation while worrying about what awaits us back home. We are almost never completely where we already are. Modern life encourages this constant movement of attention. We rush from one task to another, believing fulfillment exists somewhere ahead. We tell ourselves that happiness will arrive after the next promotion, the next achievement, the next achievement, the next relationship, the next purchase, or the next milestone. Yet every time we reach one destination, another immediately appears on the horizon. The ancient philosopher Aristotle once observed that the purpose of action is contemplation. We act, build, create, and strive, but eventually we must stop long enough to understand why we were acting in the first place. Action without reflection becomes endless motion without direction. There is nothing wrong with being active. Human beings have accomplished incredible things through effort and determination. We have built cities, discovered medicine, explored space, composed music, written literature, and transformed civilizations. Action has tremendous value, but action becomes exhausting when it is driven by the illusion that fulfillment always exists somewhere in the future. Consider dancing. When people dance beautifully, they are not trying to reach the other side of the room. The dance itself is the purpose. Music works the same way. A song is not valuable because of its final note. If that were true, the shortest songs would always be the greatest masterpieces. We value music because of the experience of hearing every note unfold in time. Life may be much closer to music than to a destination. The moment we treat life as nothing more than a journey toward some future reward, we place ourselves inside an endless race. We keep believing that once we arrive, everything will finally be complete. Yet the arrival never comes because the mind simply invents another destination. Many spiritual traditions describe this endless cycle as running on a wheel, a hamster endlessly running while remaining exactly where it started. We believe we are chasing fulfillment when, in reality, fulfillment has always been available beneath the noise of our constant striving. The strange truth is that you cannot creatively engage with life while your mind is endlessly occupied. Creativity emerges from stillness. Every artist, inventor, musician, scientist, and writer knows that their greatest insights often appear during moments when they stop forcing solutions. Sometimes the answer comes while walking, sitting quietly, watching rain fall, or simply staring out of a window. Stillness is not the absence of intelligence. It is the space from which intelligence naturally arises. This is why meditation has existed in countless cultures for thousands of years. Meditation is not about forcing the mind to become empty. The harder you fight your thoughts, the louder they become. Instead, meditation invites you to observe thought without becoming trapped inside it. At first, this seems surprisingly difficult. Sit quietly for only a few minutes, and you'll notice the mind desperately searching for something to do. It plans tomorrow. It remembers yesterday. It invents imaginary conversations. It worries about problems that don't yet exist. It judges the experience itself, wondering whether you're meditating correctly. Many people conclude that sitting quietly is boring. But perhaps the boredom is not in silence. Perhaps the boredom is simply our addiction to constant mental stimulation. If thought naturally settles, something remarkable begins to emerge. Time itself seems different. Minutes no longer feel like obstacles to overcome. The ordinary world begins revealing extraordinary richness. A beam of sunlight across the floor becomes fascinating. The movement of leaves in the wind feels endlessly alive. The sound of distant birds carries incredible depth. The rhythm of your own breathing becomes a universe worth exploring. None of these things changed. Only your attention changed. Normally we look without seeing because our minds instantly replace direct experience with labels. We say, that's a tree, that's a bird, that's a cloud. Once we have named something, we assume we already know it. Yet the label hides the living reality standing directly before us. Imagine if every sound were forced into only a handful of categories. Imagine reducing all music to only a few notes. The richness would disappear. Reality is infinitely more detailed than the concepts we use to describe it. When we stop imprisoning experience inside labels, perception becomes astonishingly vivid. Color appears deeper. Sound becomes fuller. Texture becomes alive. Even silence has a presence that words cannot adequately explain. This quality of awareness gave birth to many of the world's greatest artistic traditions. Zen gardens, tea ceremonies, calligraphy, ink painting, architecture, poetry, and music all emerged from people who learned to discover wonder within the simplest moments of everyday life. A cup of tea became sacred. Sweeping the floor became meditation. Drawing water from a well became an act of beauty. Carrying firewood became an expression of presence. Nothing magical was added. Instead, distraction was removed. One simple way to quiet the mind is to give your complete attention to something that carries no conceptual meaning. Listen carefully to the sound of rain. Observe the flame of a candle. Feel each breath enter and leave your body. At first, the mind continues commenting on everything. Gradually, those comments become less interesting. Attention naturally settles into pure observation. Sometimes there comes a brief moment where the familiar stream of thought simply stops. There is no dramatic explosion, no mystical fireworks, only an overwhelming sense of openness. Many traditions refer to this first glimpse as an awakening, a realization that reality has always been much larger than our thoughts about reality. People often become excited after such moments and immediately begin trying to recreate them. Ironically, that desire itself becomes another form of thinking. The experience slips away the moment we try to possess it. A Zen teacher once joked that enlightenment is simply ordinary experience, except perhaps 2 inches off the ground. The humor reminds us not to imagine awakening as something supernatural. The extraordinary is hidden inside the completely ordinary. From the Buddhist perspective, there is no separation between everyday life and ultimate reality. The awakened person does not disappear into another world forever. Instead, they return fully to this one, not because they are obligated to save everyone else, but because they finally recognize that there were never 2 separate worlds to begin with. Every face becomes worthy of compassion. Every stranger carries infinite depth. Every ordinary encounter becomes an opportunity to recognize the same awareness looking back through different eyes. Imagine seeing the world not as a collection of separate objects, but as one immense living process, continuously expressing itself in countless forms. The light reflecting from a leaf, the laughter of a child, the sound of distant thunder, the movement of rivers, the stars above your head, all become expressions of the same underlying mystery. Now imagine that mystery as light, not ordinary light, but a brilliance beyond anything language can capture. A radiance brighter than 1,000 suns, yet gentle enough to exist inside every grain of sand and every living cell. It expands in every direction, unfolding into endless waves of color that blend into one another without boundaries. The brilliant white gradually transforms into crimson, then orange, gold, emerald, sapphire, indigo, and violet before dissolving into a darkness that is not empty, but infinitely alive. Within that darkness, another burst of light emerges, and another, each giving birth to new forms, new dimensions, new patterns impossible to predict. As the light expands, sound awakens with it. At first, the vibration is so pure it almost seems silent, because it exceeds the limits of hearing. Slowly it descends into harmonies, resonances, and deep vibrations that seem to move not only through the ears, but through the entire body. Every vibration becomes texture. Every texture becomes form. Every form unfolds into countless smaller worlds hidden inside itself. The closer you look, the more complexity reveals itself. Every pattern contains another pattern. Every movement gives birth to another movement. Every note blossoms into entire symphonies beyond imagination. Reality appears infinitely creative, endlessly inventing itself in every passing moment. Just when the mind believes it has finally understood what it is seeing, everything transforms once again. The infinite refuses to become fixed. It dances, curls, expands, contracts, folds into itself, and emerges in completely unexpected ways. And then, just as suddenly as it seemed extraordinary, you find yourself sitting quietly exactly where you began. Nothing outside has changed. The room is the same. The sounds are the same. The ordinary world remains exactly as it always was. The only difference is that you are finally seeing it for the first time.